Syndra is a pretty good source if you're on the hunt for interesting interactions or potentially game-breaking bugs. Yet, something I've noticed is that a lot of her mechanics aren't that well understood. I believe this is partly because she's just surprisingly unpopular as a filler unit compared to threat units like Fiddlesticks or Urgot. It's a bit of a shame how she's often limited to Star Guardian or hard comps and isn't really treated as a unit that you could throw into every comp. For today's video, I want to showcase the two different sides of Syndra, why she can be incredibly useful and utterly worthless. First up, let's talk about traits. If you activate a trait on your board, can units thrown in by Syndra make use of them? For example, maybe we are running Oxforce, Defenders or Pranksters. If Syndra throws in units from these types of traits, then they can in fact benefit from the effect. Oxforce units will proc their shield, Pranksters can spawn a dummy, and Defenders will have a massive armor bonus. These cases are all very positive, and in fact Syndra not only has a positive interaction with Fiddlesticks, she was also changed to work with the ally dev admin. For example, if you have a Fiddlesticks on your board, then he will gain AP if units that are thrown in by Syndra die, as long as he is still in his dormant state. Now there's one trait in particular that made me curious. How does Syndra interact with renegades? There should be some interesting interactions here. Will renegade units that are thrown in deal more damage? Could Syndra potentially delay the second bonus because she keeps throwing in more renegades? Let's find out. In our first example, we have a Jin 1-star with the 3 renegade trait active. He deals around 54 damage with an auto attack and 77 damage with a critical strike. Once he's the only renegade unit left alive, he receives the bonus damage, and from this point on his attacks will deal 63 damage. In this fight, Syndra will throw in a second Jin. The other renegade units are taken out, so only the 2 Jin are the remaining renegades. If we look at the damage, the answer to our questions becomes quite clear. Our initial Jin that started on the board will deal 63 damage with his attacks, which is the same number as in a fight where he was the only remaining renegade unit. So it looks like the second Jin from Syndra is not taken into account for the bonus damage. The reason for this becomes obvious if we just focus on how much damage the second Jin is doing. He is only dealing 43 damage, which means he was never considered a part of renegades, so he never received any damage buff at all. So there you have it. Syndra is a lot more useful than people believe, especially with specific traits, but Renegades is not one of them. And here's a question for you. If you played during set 3, why do you think Thresh was so much more appealing compared to a unit like Syndra in set 8? I hope you learned something and see you next time.